progressive evolution of the Darwinian theory.
Mm-hmm.
You got to remember that it's the Darwinian theory,
Yeah, Darwin. Yeah, I know.
right?
Yeah,
And
Darwin.
then this is talking about something else. But hold on, before I get to this right here, I
Okay.
got to go over the Darwin theory of evolution and explain to you what the missing links are.
Okay.
So, in the fossil strata, there is a sudden shift in the genome and in the fossil record from what they call the Neanderthal
Uh huh.
to the um, um, from Neanderthal to Homo erectus. There's a sudden jump
Uh
in
huh.
the abilities of or in the structure of the bone, but they don't know what caused this jump.
Uh huh.
They telling you they don't know what caused it because they ignoring the fact that it's written about in Sumerian tablets, and they don't want you to know that.
Right. Go
So
ahead.
the next evolutionary missing link comes in when the Homo erectus becomes suddenly Homo sapien, and
Right.
they overlap each other.
Go
Right. So
ahead.
now you got two different species of hominid walking the planet at the same time. But the
The man
Homo,
and mankind.
right. So Homo sapien outlived Homo erectus according to the fossil record.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't know what happened that caused them to disappear, whether they was absorbed into the sapiens or whether the genetic stock of erectus just died off.
Uh huh.
Right? So then we have what we call Homo sapien, which means the intelligent man, a Latin term telling us that it was written in the schools of Rome. Latin
Mm-hmm.
was the Roman language that the Moors wrote for scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
So they call them Homo erectus, which means upright man in English. And now it's telling you a different story. So the Homo erectus suddenly becomes Homo sapien, which means the intelligent man.
Right. Go ahead.
And the intelligent man goes from Homo sapien to Homo sapien sapien, which means the intelligent or the wisest of the intelligent man,
Go ahead.
which is supposed to be the modern day hominid, people of the planet. We supposed to be Homo sapien sapien, and we supposed to come in a multitude of skin tones, hair textures, and genetic bloodlines.
Uh huh.
The phenotype is the external um, representation of the genotype, which is the code that's on the DNA.
Mm-hmm.
So when they talk about the phenotype, they talking about physical appearance. But when they talk about genotype, they talking about the genetic code in the bloodline, in the
Okay.
stock of the blood, right? Now, this takes us here because it shows you that it's another group of people on the planet that's not from Africa.
Go ahead.
This is those people we were showing you in the pictures, the original people of India. It says, according to genetic studies, Dravidian peoples are primarily associated with ancestral South Indian genetic stock. When they say genetic stock, that means that they have an isolated block of genetics that's specific to that group.
Mm-hmm.
That forms a stock.
Mm-hmm.
So they got a series of genetic traits that reference them as being of a genetic bloodline or family line,
Mm-hmm.
right? That creates the stock, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
considered a distinct lineage within the South Asian population. Remember, I told you those are Inky kids. They got a different bloodline than Enlil kids and Anu kids,
Right.
right? It's a along from the drama, the Indo-Aryan population, their Y chromosome haplogroup is often associated with L1M22, which is linked to the Neolithic expansion in West Asia,
Okay.
right? So what they're talking about is this father line right here, and it's got a different father line than the other father line that we was looking at. Because
Mm-hmm.
remember, the first one was MI55. Scroll back up a bit, a bit. And this one is L1M22.
Right here. Yeah.
Right. So they two different father lines, two different genetic stocks, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they distinctly separate. That means that they got a set of traits that make them be unalike,
Right.
right? Because you see it say, which is associated with the L1M22, which is linked to the Neolithic expansion in West Asia. The Neolithic is the new age of stone or the new age period.
Mm-hmm.
Neo means new, lithic meaning age or set period. The majority of the genetic evidence point to the Dravidian population having a high proportion of ASI ancestry, which differentiates them from their ancestral North Indian. See that word, Ani? That's the same word,
Yeah.
Anu. That's the
Go ahead.
Egyptian word
They
for
ain't
Anu.
fooling.
Component
Yeah, because
often
the U and
associated
the
with
I.
Indo-Aryan
Yep.
populations. So now this is telling you that this group of people have a component often associated with Indo-Aryan population. Remember, Aryan means royalty. It means the
Mm-hmm.
nobility. Indo means new.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Enlil kids that's replacing um or being replaced. No, this is Enlil kids replacing Inky kid, putting the real royal family or the real Aryan on the bottom
Mm-hmm.
and assuming the position as the royal families of India.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, a lot of us don't know India used to be called Western Ethiopia, and they was
Mm-hmm.
using the skin tones of the people's darkness as the synonym between the two. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until later on in the Anunnaki Wars where the top was assigned to Enlil's children and the bottom was assigned to Enki's children, which
Mm-hmm.
takes us to the Asiatic black man. So, who is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe, is a Sumerian representation of Enki.
Go ahead.
So,
A fashioner.
Enki,
Yeah.
right, because he is the one who formed man from the dust of the earth
Right.
by legend, right? By legend. It don't mean he literally formed man from the dust of the earth,
Right.
right? But the legend says that. So if you know who the legend is talking about, then you can understand the keys behind the codes in order to unlock your enslavement by giving you dogma in place of information,
Right.
right? So these stories all have interweaving tales in them. Most of us will never notice them, like when they make the acronym ANI, and
Okay.
then you go to the Temple Scrolls and you get the Book of Ani,
Okay.
right? So that's not an accident because the people who's assigning the acronyms is all part of their brotherhood,
Go ahead.
right? Now we talking about priest wars. These priests is the same one. Everything was a priesthood in ancient culture.
Mm-hmm.
Your scholars was your priests of information, or as we would call minister of information, if you in more modern terms like Black Panthers or Nation of Islam, you have a minister of information. He's over the study of the information that we need to get out to the people.
Right.
A minister of information, an information minister, not to give you the dogma, but to give you information.
Right.
So this is why you would have a need for a Final Call newspaper or Muhammad Speaks,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
This is the I forgot the name of the Nuwabian newspaper he used to put out, but these was necessary. The Black Panther Press, All of this was necessary because they was using information against us instead of using information to empower us.
Mm-hmm.
By knowing who these people are referring to in ancient times under modern culture, you have to learn both modern um, terminologies and expressions, and then you have to make allowance for the evolution of ideologies to return back to themselves. In other words, follow a loop,
Mm-hmm.
which takes you to the Emerald Tablets, where Tahuti say you are in cycles within cycles. So once you start flipping out of the cycles, you flipping out of the loop,
Right.
right? In downtown Chicago, it's called the loop,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
So what we trying to flip out of the loop is the truth, and the truth shall make you free,
Right.
right? So when we understand that when Elijah talk about the Asiatic black man, he's talking about the bloodlines that came to redeem the earth by suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they start talking about the different stocks in science, they describe them as what they call South Asian stock or Asian stock, right? And then
Uh-huh.
they start breaking them up into different linguistic stocks, but then you can always get the tail from the father line.
Okay.
It's the same with if you do the investigation on the Y chromosome, the all of them big ass tribes in Africa gonna come from the same patrilineal source,
Right.
but the female line, the mother lines are gonna be different because when you got a genetic trait to different genetic stocks, you produce a different byproduct.
Right.
The byproduct is to find out how to give everybody that was denied rights of ascension under the reign of the Anunnaki, they ascension rights back, right? Everybody should have an equal right to ascension. And Inky wrote it and told them in the council when he told them the only remedy is to give them one drop of Anunnaki blood,
Right.
which ties back to the Americas in Tahuti.
Yeah.
Tahuti, being the master geneticist, know how to correct genetic defects.
Right.
But he learned it from Inky, the master geneticist that taught the master geneticist. But his artistic side from his mother line made him become an even more brilliant geneticist than his father in order to correct all of the bloodline mistakes, taking you back to the old bloodlines,
Right.
the
Yeah. I
Omega
just asked the question.
bloodline.
I just asked it. Go ahead, bro.
Right. So the Omega bloodlines is the curative bloodlines for the A's, the B's, and the ABs.
Okay.
So when you tying into the vine, you using the prime root blood stock, the O bloodlines, to correct the genetic defect that's coming in on Y chromosomes through A and B.
Uh-huh.
We ain't going too heavy on them. This
No,
sound like
look. For my
that sound
Bible
like I'm
guys
teaching the
and
whole
for my
genetics
look,
class, and I don't know
yeah,
if they
you
can
going
keep
in.
up with
Look,
this one.
you really, hey, Rod, hey, they don't know. I'm gonna tell you what they don't know about Rod. Me and Rod been on lives with doctors, and Rod twisted their cap off. That he was telling them stuff about their own profession that they didn't know. It's like, so people underestimate you like one of the the heavy hitters, the
Yeah,
underestimated.
I
Oh,
got to make it, but Elijah wanted to be plain enough that when I get done understanding it, that a kid would know what I'm talking about. A kid be able to put the
yeah,
pieces together. Because if
this
a
is
child can't understand it, then I'm using too much scientific lingo to explain
right,
it.
right.
So
Trent,
check with the comments, see what they say. I don't want to go.
this what I want, because he just said a whole bunch right there with the one drop of blood and inky and everything, and that's in the Bible. If for your Bible guys that's shooting shots, because that's really God made man in His image. That image part is the one drop of blood. Like it translate. That's what they translated into in the Old Testament, and that was inky. What I'm saying, upgrading this thing. But this is the question I got for you. Now we talking about when we think about agents, they mostly have subsidize us on the TV to think that Chinese. We don't think about Hindus or Russians, because Russians Asians too. I mean, well, I don't know if it depends on the term, but I'm saying based on the term, they telling
They
us that.
actually classified as Eurasians,
Okay, go ahead,
giving
go ahead.
them the bridge to both Europe and Asia,
Uh huh.
which is actually the name of the continent.
Go ahead.
Europa, right? Who Europe is named after, was one of the daughters of Isis, and her land was to govern over Europe. This
Uh
is
huh.
where you get your priestesses of Helen going into Greece to civilize Greece with education, and it came in matriarchally. And this is why all of the ancient Greek philosophy was heavily influenced by Egypt,
Uh huh.
because they were being sent on a mission under the orders of Helen, which would be in the European mythology, Europa, the
Uh huh.
goddess of Europe, the heir to the land of the ice people. The ice people was the ones who dwelled in the frozen lands of the Siberian Peninsula, coming into what we call today Europe,
Uh
right?
huh.
So while we see the migrations of the different original stocks, and you got to give a shout out to Ivan Van Sertima for
Go ahead.
putting those Africans' presence in early Asia together and having those professors write those
Uh
articles, African presence in early America, even though they using the term African to refer to all melanated groups are not Africans. As for example,
Go
those
ahead.
old Mississippians been there since Atlantis was an active civilization all over the world, and they still
Uh huh.
there, right? But the same with those people called Zulu. They've
Go
been
ahead.
in South Africa, what we call Zulu land, ever since Atlantis.
Go ahead.
They was Inky's children. They was the highest bloodline in what we call the Absu.
Okay.
So now, if you want to know what the Absu is, it's Rafali in South Africa, where the ancient mines, the ancient gold mines, are still there.
Go ahead.
Right. So this was the Absu, the stronghold of Inky. Inky dwelled in an area in the Absu, much like Credu Mutwa did, except
Uh
Inky was catered to by multiple different females from around the world,
huh. Go ahead. Go ahead.
right? And these people came out and had different stocks and bloodlines out of those people that dwelled in Zululand or in the Absu. Zulu means Skywalkers. Right now, the Zulu being the Skywalkers, they talking about the children of the Orianos. They talking about what we call on Earth the people of the sun. Your
Mm-hmm.
Kal El in them, who draws extra power from our unique solar rays by the way that it activates the melanin to communicate with their light body in order to give them higher forms of consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about the different bloodlines, it's gonna trace all the way back to a mother line. It's gonna have father lines cut off at varying different points in the genetic history of the earth. But when you get to a certain mother line on the 12 regions of the earth, it was broke up into 12 regions based on the 12 zodiacal chart signs in the sky,
Mm-hmm.
because it was divided as above, so below.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take the sky map of the zodiac and lay it over the earth map from the United Nations, you get the 12 divisions that make up the different houses of the daughters of Isis,
Yeah.
because it was the high priestess of each one assigned as the empress of her region. And the one who was at the center of it all, they call her Big Mama or Mami Wata or
Mm-hmm.
Tawaret, incarnate as the great mother who walks on the earth, as Mother Earth incarnated.
Mm-hmm.
And she has the genetic stock to unleash the wealth of the world upon the proper number of heirs being redeemed through a family redeemer, or what they call a bloodline redeemer in the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this was the person assigned to go through all of the families, parts of the family, in order to figure out what's the cause of the disruption in the family. Once you locate the cause of the disruption, you actively interfere with the disruptor.
Mm-hmm.
Once you interfere with the disruptor, it gets the attention of other bloodline heirs who will come to you with codes, and they will flip codes to each other because they playing in the blind, almost like Bop Goes the Weasel or
Okay.
Tag in the Dark. You it. And when enough families find a person who knows how to redeem the families of the earth, they assign them the position as the Speaker of the House.
Go ahead.
As in the Speaker of Big Mama House stands on the front porch and say, everybody get ready, Big Mama on her way home. Right? So now everybody go put on their Sunday best because Big Mama been on vacation for a while, but she come back home and they start singing the Alafia song. So this is the different groups of the genetic stocks of India. And if you look, you'll see the ones that's the darkest. Some of them even got kinky hair that's real dark like that. And some of them got
Yeah.
A ether. Those inky babies.
Right here.
Now the ones up at the top, second to the right, those Enlil babies from out of his Earth family stock. Not the other way.
Right
The
here.
second, yeah, about them over there. The lady in the first one look, yeah. No, all of them is the same. All of them Inky kids.
Right here at the top.
Now you see her at the top. She look like she's from Australia. Her right there.
Yep. Yep.
Those are
Her
also
too.
Inky children. To them, we talking about a
Yeah, they
Y
don't got that. They
chromosome.
don't got complete straight hair. They got like a 7, 8. They don't got that 6
Hmm.
though. They're a little
So
bit
now
more like
when we start talking about the peoples of Asia, we talking a group or a genetic stock they call Melanesians. And this is where you see the brown skin with the blonde hair.
okay.
Like he just old. That's why his hair white. But if you go to the another picture I got sent you, it was showing you those kids with the blonde hair.
Yeah, I got it right here. Right here.
Them right there. These are called Melanesian people.
Yep.
And they got blonde hair and melanated skin. They come from a different genetic line out of the what they classify as the Negrito peoples, which consists mostly of the South Pacific Islands going into New Zealand down into Australia. And they say this is where the Australian people migrated from up here. And this is why they here have a propensity to turn blind. But that's the bleaching due to the solar rays. The sun
Okay.
bleaches their hair like that. Their hair might get darker in the wintertime. And in the summer, the sun will bleach their hair like that, right? But it don't bleach everybody hair like that. Only certain
Yeah.
genetic lines, those are called the golden ones when you're talking about how they referred to in the ancient texts. Those Melanesian
Hey,
people right here, they were called the golden ones. Look at them and
yeah.
you'll see why.
Hey, these people are like they show them as like primitive looking, but they intelligent because that the tyrosine in their brain is it's a tyrosine in their brain that's going more than the normal human. I
Well,
did some research
you
on
got to
that
keep
on
in
the
mind, however smart we might be right now, we dumb as hell, including
right
me,
right
because the capabilities that we have and what we've been poisoned into not using is a giant shift in intelligence.
okay
In other words, what you haven't been poisoned out of and miseducated out of to recover any of that, it's a massive jump in that in intelligence just by overcoming them two obstacles: the social
right
conditioning and the poisoning. I don't know which one worse.
right right. I think social conditioning because we by who the people we are. If they just let us go and do what we do, we always make a way out or find a way to get out of get into the game. Nubians find
Okay,
a
so
way.
now I'm glad you said that. Now look at this. For the last 500 years, we've been on the bottom.
Uh huh.
Where was we at the eternity of history before that 500-year stretch?
We were ruling the world. I think 500 years ago, the Nubians were ruling the world.
Okay, you say we was ruling the world.
Yep.
500 years ago, some people crawled out the caves and whooped our ass.
Yeah, that don't make no sense. That don't sound right. It's just something missing on that.
Right.
They had help. Them guys
So,
from the caves had help from about. They was puppeted. They had a puppet master. The hand.
yeah.
The
Okay, go
hand.
back to Elijah Muhammad.
Okay.
He said when Yaqub realized that he wasn't going to see his creation come into fruition,
Okay. Go ahead.
he left his scientists in charge.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
now go back to when he first assembled his scientists,
Uh huh.
and they described them as being dark as night.
Yeah, that's right.
So the scientists that's
Early morning.
controlling the narrative is some niggas,
That's right.
and they call themselves Jews. I sent you a real clip about the Jews. I don't know if you got it. Because
Oh yeah,
people keep thinking
I
these
got it
pale
real.
faces is the Jews. They not the Jews.
Here, and if not, I'm about to play it through this. I can play it through
Mm-hmm.
this other thing. Tell me, can you hear it when I play it? Man, Rod, that right there. That's a lot right there. It says the whole game, the whole it shuts down the whole layout. It tells you how the whole layout really is shut down. It's all over with already. The Pope already told them to stop the Spanish Inquisition. The Spanish Inquisition is over. Stop what you're doing. Stop this foreign. He explained how all of them are foreigners, foreign government. They're not even
And
supposed to
that's
be
what I've
on
been
our land.
saying. And that's what I've been saying the whole time, that America is a corporation. You hear me kept saying Inc.
Yep.
United
And guess
States
what?
Inc. United
Yep.
States of America Inc. because they
Yep.
incorporated, but the charters is held overseas. They not domestically chartered amongst us. They foreignly chartered in the roles of the holdings of the royal houses of Europe.
Right.
In the asset to settle their dispute among themselves was the treaty arrangements that they made with each other as if they was us.
Uh huh.
This is why he said to surrender when the rightful heirs come along, that they wasn't going to resist handing it over. This is
Right.
why it's so important for us to remember our culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we know now what enough of us aware, and Queen Candace already said that we almost at critical. So she said what she said.
Man, so why so like the court system's going on? It shouldn't even be no court system going on where you got to go to court and they give you 100, 200 years for something like it shouldn't even be
All
that.
of the courts was ordered to cease and desist
Right.
back in 2013. They've been acting on in their own capacity. That means they are assuming the function with none of the jurisdictional authority to continue doing business on the land under
Wow.
the old conditions.
So how do
Those
we stop
conditions
these
no
motherfuckers?
longer exist.
So how do we stop these motherfuckers from continuing to commit war crimes? By them doing us like they doing us, they commit war crimes against us. So like we need more people to stand up and speak out against this. Like this is fucking not right, man. It's not right.
Okay, so now, remember I said earlier when we seized FEMA,
Uh-huh.
because we tell you right in the letter to surrender FEMA and all of their military holdings,
Right?
right? So when we seized FEMA, they gave us the infrastructure to transfer the government while they prosecute the war criminals.
Okay.
Now, while the big part of the war is taking place and they want to keep people from panicking, they have to control the narrative in order to wake the people up at a steady incremental pace
Uh-huh.
in sudden shock and awe moments, deaths of celebrities, celebrity arrests, political satire,
Uh-huh.
attempted assassinations,
Right?
senility in office. All of these are sensationalisms.
Okay.
Sensationalisms is the theatrical effect being used to subtly wake the people from their slumber by showing them the game is so obvious in your face that you can't even see it because it's hidden in plain sight.
Right? Right?
Right?
Man,
So,
so
who is controlling all of those organizations?
hey, bro, this is a quick question. Because that makes it's starting to make sense now.